Hey, hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Untying the Knot with Katie and Miranda. What's up, Miranda?
Hello, how are you?
Doing wonderful. How about you?
Pretty good. Kids are home. It is summertime, and that's fun.
Yeah, summer's always crazy for me. How about you?
Yeah, just finding a new routine. It's like I'm so glad I don't have to make lunches and stuff every day, but then I have to feed them while they're here all day and give them rides. And I have one that got her permit this week.
Oh, yay.
So yeah, we've been driving around every day, and that's fun.
Awesome. Well, I bet she's excited.
She's excited. Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's dive right into it, friend. So for those of you who are just joining us, we are the co-moderators for the Mom Nation group, the divorce support community. And we decided to do a podcast. So this is coming out every month, and we call it Untying the Knot for obvious reasons. And last month was kind of our introductory to the podcast, kind of gave you a little feel for what we're going to talk about when we talked about, emotions and things like that as we're going through this process, because that's a really big deal. And honestly, Miranda, I don't think it gets talked about enough, what we go through mentally and emotionally as we are making this transition. And it's a huge life change.
I think it's the biggest part of it. But it's not what gets this focus or attention. We do everything that we need to do. We focus on the financial and the kids and the co-parenting and all the drama of everything. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of it, we're left, whether it's a month, a year, 10 years, 20 years later, we're left with the residual emotional charge and energy we didn't deal with. And then it's even harder to get through, I think.
100%. And by that time, who got what and what furniture went to what household, doesn't even matter.
No, it doesn't matter.
And I think you're right. And as I'm thinking back to my divorce, that's kind of, and maybe it was an escape kind of thing. But that is what I focused on the most. Okay, where am I going? Obviously that's important. You got to have a place to live, but where am I going and what am I taking with me and what is he getting and what am I okay with leaving and, all of that kind of stuff. And even that in and of itself is an emotional journey as well. Depending on what you are separating, there were, some memories that I had to separate, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it really is that. And I think there's things that we don't say or we can't say, and we try and use that to express ourselves or to vent our frustration or our sadness or our resentment or whatever it is. And I think a lot of times that we either we don't want to talk about it or we don't know how. It's just too heavy. It's too overpowering. It's too all encompassing. And so we just hyper focus on that stuff. And I know I did the first time. The second time I was completely opposite. And I was in that George Strait give it away mentality. Like, I don't want any of it. But the first time I was like, we fought over the stupidest stuff.
Yeah. One of the biggest things as I'm remembering kind of my process when I went through it. And, this is many, many years ago, of course. The thing that sticks out to me the most is the initial guilt that I had. I was the one that decided to leave the marriage. And I struggled with that for a really long time before I actually spoke up and said, this is what I'm going to do. So by the time I spoke up and I said it to him and I told him, I felt pretty ready at that point. But there was a good, and I'm talking years, not weeks, not months, but I'm talking years. I struggled with, is this the right thing? Do I really want a divorce? And the guilt was really overwhelming after the conversation, even though I knew at that point, yes, I'm scared. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but this is the route that I believe I want to go. And the guilt just killed me. We didn't have kids either.
So I was just thinking that in my head, like that was all just you not having to. There's guilt no matter what. And mom guilt definitely adds to it, but it's not only guilt, but it's like obligation, like expectation. And that is like what I was supposed to do, who I was supposed to be, all that stuff, especially if I was raised in religion. So if that adds that other element of this was not how you were supposed to do this. And that affects your self-worth and who, your confidence. And as a woman, if you already greatly struggle with confidence, like I did, it made it like way even harder to deal with.
I'm glad that you brought up that religious piece, because that was certainly a part of it for me. Not that I was at that time necessarily practicing, but I was raised in a Catholic family, and that was the idea. I mean, there were, there were certainly things that were quote unquote religious beliefs that came from religion, but that were our family beliefs. Right. And back where I'm from, it was kind of the norm. It was almost, this is so weird, but it was almost like your identity, who you were with, and, if you were married or not, and that kind of thing. And it's honestly, I just went back there. It's still like that. Very, very small town. I'm not, talking crap about anybody. I love everybody very much. I'm not being judgmental here. It's just kind of that was the thing that you did. It was just assumed that that's what you did. And I got married when I was, 21, something like
You're
that.
Just following what everyone else is doing.
Yeah. And did I have some red flags? I mean, the man that I married was a very nice man. There was no abuse or anything like that, thankfully, in my situation. We just kind of grew apart. And quite honestly, I don't think it was a good union to begin with. Like, it wasn't a good match to begin with. But I knew it. I knew it even before I walked down the aisle. I knew it.
Yeah, I did too. Because you're not doing it. This is something I've thought about a lot. What is love? And do you know what love is?
Yeah.
And I know, like, at some point we'll share specifically, but the first time I was just doing it to escape. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about love. I thought about security and safety, and I was trying to run. And the second time, I think I was in love, but that love was based in fear and was not rooted in safety, and it was like conditional, and it was like a trauma bond. It was very codependent. And I don't think it's only like the last 5 years, maybe, I've understood how you're supposed to love someone and what that looks like. And because it goes back to yourself. Like, I didn't love myself that way.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes we get married because we think we're supposed to. And I don't know about you, but I have such a different idea of like, we've been married for 50 years, 40 years, and it's something to celebrate. And a lot of older people that have been married for so long that are deeply in love, like, it's beautiful. But how many times have you seen people like, oh, it's our anniversary, and they're miserable?
Yeah.
And they're fighting, and you're like, what are you really celebrating? You're celebrating that you just ignored your feelings and disconnected from yourself for 35 years? Like, yeah. Really? And I know it sounds harsh, but like it's
the harsh reality.
It's pressure on you as a person that knows the divorce is the right option to be like, well, I'm supposed to have this great long stemming something to be proud of that my grandkids say, oh, look how long they were married, and it does that makes me feel guilty sometimes when I see that kind of stuff, because I'm never going to, even if I get married tomorrow, I'm never, it's not going to be the lifelong romance type thing.
Right. Right. Did you feel a bit of guilt in your process was a little bit different. Your situation was a little bit different than mine. You had a child involved, and I know we'll get into our specific stories in detail later. But did you have that feeling that I had for years and years, like just on the fence about, is this the right thing or not? Like, how did that go for you?
Well, it's weird because I have two different kinds of guilt. I had the guilt of like, he decided it for me the first time. And then we had the guilt of like, our child was in two different homes and I couldn't talk to her when she was there. It was so bad. So I had so much guilt. And I think that was more as a mom.
Yeah.
I don't think I had the religious guilt, but I had already kind of broken away from that. That didn't consume me as much. It was more the mom guilt. And it was more embarrassment for me than anything because I didn't choose it and I didn't get a say in it. And I think that was hard for me to deal with. But the second time, it's been, I think, almost 8 years since we split up. And even though I was completely done and my emotions had totally changed and I was actually calm and I kind of and I think we'll talk about that a little bit today. I actually kind of had a plan and kind of knew what I was doing. Even though I had that, there was still 3 years probably where I was like, I should just go back. Go back. I don't know why, just because I thought like, my kids shouldn't be in two different homes. And who's going to want anyone that's been divorced twice? And what is everyone going to say? And it was all about that kind of stuff and not really about like, this is the right thing for me. This is the right thing for my kids. And now I'm very, very confident in that, especially given what we've been through and how much they've grown and how much I've grown. But it's like starting anything. You don't know what the end result's going to be. And there's like, you start a business and there's all this fear and stuff that goes into it. You don't know what it's going to be at the end, but there's something inside you that tells this is the right thing to do. And I think that's important to be able to listen to like your intuition versus your fear, and being able to decipher like what voice is talking to you. And do you understand that voice?
I'm glad that you said that, because I think that is really important. Do you have any tips, maybe, tips that you give your clients about how to separate those, the voice of society, the voice of my belief system, the voice of everything that I've learned thus far, or my core, what in my gut is telling me? Because as women, we're very intuitive if we listen to it. If we do.
God, there's so much there. One thing is that I learned is how you feel about it. So when you hear something, when you hear someone, it's a motorcycle going down my street. When you get an idea of something, where do you feel it? Like, do you feel it in the pit of your stomach, in like that's gross and uncomfortable, or do you feel it like in here, or do you feel it in here? Like, where does it come from? And I have learned how to listen to, like, down here is fear. Down here is judgment. Down here is core wounds. Down here is lack of safety and trust in myself. And so if the feeling comes from there, I stop and I breathe and I say, okay, this is fear talking. And otherwise, you can still have a little bit of fear and be rooted in safety and trust, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like, fear is a human emotion, but when your whole core is sitting in that, questioning yourself and fear, then everything feels fearful. Mm-hmm. But when you get to the place where you're like, okay, I'm safe, I'm okay. There's a little bit of fear coming up, but maybe that fear is really excitement. Maybe that fear is really courage. Maybe that fear is really a little bit of anxiety that I should have because I'm doing something unknown. Like, I think we've talked about it before, like that overwhelming feeling that you have. If you always have fear about everything, then it's really hard to tell what the emotion actually is.
Yeah.
So that's why I do what I do and coach on emotions, so that you actually, do you know what it feels like when your body feels joy? Do you know what it feels like when you're feeling anticipation? Do you know what healthy anxiety feels like? Because we should. I think so many times as women, we're like, I'm so sick of being emotional, and I shouldn't feel this way, and I shouldn't be this way, and you should, because you're a human and you should experience all the range of emotions. That's healthy. Mm-hmm. It's when we try and suppress them that I think that it starts to confuse us. So I know this sounds silly, but one of the ways that I have learned to trust myself is to follow my intuition in every way. Like, that could be as stupid as hearing a song. Like, when I hear a song pop in my head, I play it immediately. So I'm like, oh, there's something there. Let me just sit with that thought. When someone pops into my head, I try to text them or, hey, you should reach out to this person. Now, I don't always, or sometimes I'll write it down. But when I get a thought in my head, I write it down, or I do something, or I act on it. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds like really small and silly, but that's a way to start listening to yourself and trusting yourself. And when you have a desire to go a different way, take a different route to work, or do a different thing, answer it, listen to it, because you never know. I don't want to get too woo-woo. I'm pretty woo-woo. So I think
it's fine.
Okay. So I'm totally like, what does the universe want me to discover down here? And so I'm more on that track now, but I could never have said that 5, 6, 7 years ago. Mm-hmm. But just honoring what you're feeling like. If you're on some strict like workout regimen and you really feel like just walking today, or like if you really feel like having a piece of fruit, or you really, like, I know that sounds silly, but really listening to yourself about like, what is my body asking of me? Mm-hmm. What does it want of me? And starting to answer those and to pay attention to what that is will put you down the path eventually of learning how to completely decipher between, is this fear? Is this intuition?
I love that. Do you feel like, because as moms, as parents, as, working a 9-to-5 or business owners or whatever, like, we have a lot going on. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that busyness, that noise really can quiet that inner voice. Do you recommend at all like 5-minute meditation a day?
Oh, absolutely. Like
And how does that look?
Have a routine. So one of the things I try and work about with my clients is having non-negotiables, right? Like having 3 non-negotiables or something that I will do every single day. And then within that, having flexibility. So I love yoga. Ideally, I would love to do 45 minutes to an hour a day. I would love that. But if I get a 10-minute stretch in, it elicits the same sort of feeling that yoga would bring me, not only in my body, but in my mind. So it's a non-negotiable that I have to do stretch yoga something a day. For me, I know that. It's a non-negotiable that I listen to a meditation every day. Would I like to do 30 minutes and black out and go for it? Yeah. But is 5 minutes going to do the same thing? Absolutely. And so it's not about what you do, but how you do it and the intentionality behind it. So I like to make a list of things that, it's not a one size fits all. Mm-hmm. Like I could not have meditated before. I could not have journaled before. I hated writing my thoughts down. Now I write every day. So it's a progressive thing to get there and to get comfortable with things. But if you can just start with anything that shuts your mind off. And what is that for you? For me, I can go outside, and I do every day, probably 2-3 times a day. I go outside and I just sit in the sun for 5 minutes. And that like just kind of resets me. Mm-hmm. So I know when I'm getting, that feeling that you get where you're starting to get like uncomfortable in your skin, or you're just like overwhelmed, or you're not sitting up straight, like change the channel. Mm-hmm. And go do something completely different. Mm-hmm. And so having those little things in place that you do that, like have a list of things to always fall back on, because it seems silly, but if you have a list of things that you can, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that, and honoring that and following through with it, even if it's only a couple minutes, it's about the effort you put behind it, as opposed to like, oh, I don't have time to take a full class, so I'm just not going to do anything, that kind of thing.
Right. Now that makes sense. And it is hard. It is hard to sit and quiet your mind for 1 minute, let alone 5, let alone 10, let alone 30. I mean, I
what do you do?
That. I try is what I do. Do I hit it every day? No, but I do work out every day. And so during that time, that's my time with myself. That's my time with my own thoughts. Lately, I've been a little addicted to, a couple of different podcasts. So lately I've been listening to podcasts. So I haven't necessarily taken that time. Again, something that I struggle with, and really need to get real present with and do it, because there was a time in my life where I was meditating daily, and it was for longer than 5 minutes, and it was either a guided meditation or not. And I was having a lot of success with it. And I could really see the difference in my day, in my life, in my own thoughts and in my feelings. And again, like, how did I get away from that? Okay, I'm busy, but that's like, that excuse only goes so far,
Well, and it's something else you have to do. Right? It's another to-do thing. But I think when we think of it as something external, like another thing that we have to do, that's when it can fall off. But when you think of it as more like internally, I have to do this. I have to be connected to myself. Like what can I do that will shut the thoughts off? And I work out too. And I listen to podcasts all day long. And I think that's great. And I think it's what you put in is what you put out. And I agree with all of that. But it's still external stuff that we're taking in, as opposed to like internal stuff that we're purging or clearing or releasing.
Somebody that I love to listen to had a great analogy about meditation and said that let's pretend you have to vacuum anyway, right? Like you have to vacuum your living room, whatever it is. Meditation's the difference between vacuuming with the vacuum unplugged or plugged.
Yeah. Just going through the motions.
Like we gotta do life anyway. Like we're doing life no matter what, right?
Yeah.
So do we want to plug it in, or do we want to do it the hard way, basically, right?
Well, and that's how I feel about cleaning. Like I have 4 kids. I'm so tired of cleaning. But if we do it for 5-10 minutes a day as a family, that is so much better to deal with, look at, feel, and exist than do it for 2 hours on the weekends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a day, it's never going to stop. You're always going to have to do it. Like, the thoughts are always going to be there. But if you can spend a little bit of time working through it every single day, as opposed to like completely breaking down and having to reset yourself, it really does make a difference. And I thought a second ago, I don't want to forget to say, one of my mentors told me a long time ago, meditation, that word is not like it's meditation is anything that you do with yourself that turns off the thoughts. That's it. So if your meditation is and eventually you could lead to actually this, and maybe that's helpful for you. But if you're out there and you're like, I hate meditating, or I don't want to sit cross-legged and listen to people talk to me. If that's your deal, go for a walk, or, maybe dance in your room, or move around, or anything that you do that connects you to yourself, that shuts off this, that is meditation. So don't get caught up in that word meditate. You don't have to be like the Beatles and go to ashram and sit there for 2 hours at a time. It's not that, but I used to think that. So
same, and thank you for clarifying that, because I think it's a popular misconception of what that word truly means and how all encompassing it really is.
Yeah.
So back to, hey, I made the decision, I'm going for it. I might feel some guilt around it, I might feel some doubt maybe, but I'm still going for it because I feel like it's the right thing for me to do. What next? What happens next?
What happens next? I guess we could do probably 2 different podcasts on if it was your decision or their decision, because there's so much. Because if it was your decision, and we both have had that experience, you've thought about it, you've prepared for it, you've thought of scenarios, you've kind of put a little legwork into it, as opposed to being blindsided. So I'm going to put that one aside, because I think that's a whole nother can of worms.
I agree.
But let's say either it's your choice, or you knew it was coming and you were like prepared. It wasn't like a big shock. Writing everything down, I think for me is like, this is now turning into a business arrangement, and we want to dissolve this peacefully. And I remember with my ex-husband, like, I was such an emotional mess all the time. I always had a reaction. And when I decided, I had written everything down. This is what and it doesn't mean it's in stone. Certainly we can talk about this, but here are my thoughts. Here's, I think, what would be an interesting parenting plan. Here's what I think holiday should work. Here's what I think, support should look like. And starting with almost like a negotiation, but you're starting with an offer. Mm-hmm. But doing that really helped me get out of the, should I be doing this? Is this the right thing to do? What's going to happen? Yeah. What's he going to say? And really just put me in a place of progress and of moving forward. So if you haven't done that yet, I would do that with every single scenario. Money, school, holidays, that's a whole other thing. Who's taking what? Well, and you know about that.
Yeah.
That's something with house stuff.
Yep. That's something that I work with clients a lot on. I specialize in that, as you know. And that is the exact advice when I first speak with somebody. And usually I'm speaking with the missus. That's what I attract. But that is my advice as well. Now, I don't do any other financials except for real estate assets. I work with the house. That's what I do. But that doesn't mean I don't know something about that. You work with so many couples and you kind of start to pick up things, and you work with so many attorneys and you start to pick up things. So I actually have a form that makes it really easy, which back in my day, I didn't have a form. I did exactly what you suggested, but I just kind of wrote it all out, from the top of my head kind of thing. But I have a form that is basically prepares that quote unquote offer that you're talking about. And I think that that's a great place to start. And, that's what my ex-husband and I did. We sat down at the table. He handed me his, I handed him mine, and we came to an agreement. Now I was really negotiable because like your second time around, you had mentioned you were pretty negotiable. Like you were just ready to get rid of everything.
Do it.
I was pretty negotiable. I left him the house, which in hindsight, kicked myself a little bit. I probably could have pushed back on that a little bit.
Feel that one.
Yeah. All I basically did was take a couple of pieces of furniture, nothing huge, just so that I could get into, because I left him there. with a house full of furniture. You know, we just redid a bunch of stuff in the house. Of course, I was the one that was, you know, more of the breadwinner. So it was my money that we dumped into the house. But I was like, done, Miranda. I was ready to roll. So I took my car, my laptop, because I knew that I could make money again. All I need is my laptop. That's, you know, I've got the skills, right? Yeah. And took my clothes and away I went. Now, looking back, again, I feel maybe I should have pushed back on a couple of things, but I was also, I needed out.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to prolong things.
It's energetic. It's energetic. Like if you energetically, and going back to the woo-woo, if you energetically release someone and something, you'll pick it up again somewhere else.
Yeah.
But you have to be really willing to let go of that. And some people, even if it's their decision, like I remember my first husband who cheated on me, but he still energetically hadn't let go of me. So he was still like, I don't want you, but I want to pretend like I own you in some way, or, you know, that I'm still tied to you. And that was kind of a mind F for me. But like when you energetically clear that and separate that and let them go and don't hold on blame or resentment, even if you were probably more wronged, at least in my situation, I know I was, but I was like, hey, there's always responsibility here. I'm going to own up to mine. I'm going to leave you with yours, and I'm done. And a lot of people can't do that because they feel like they have to, I don't know, what is that? They feel like they have to like be seen or be heard, or they feel like they have to put up a fight or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Or maybe there's some sort of attachment to the drama of it all.
Yeah.
You know, I would not recommend this, but this is what I did. So we were in a band together because I used to play music back then. And I continued to be in the band, which I should have never done. So we would see each other at practice and at shows, and eventually, you know, new significant others came into the picture, and they came to the shows, and that just caused a lot of drama that we really, neither one of us should have done to ourselves, to be honest. Like we didn't have kids. We should have just separated everything. And I'm trying to think back, why did I do that? Yeah, because I loved the band. We were doing great. We were playing really good shows. So there was that piece of it. But I think what you're stepping in right now is also another piece of it. I wasn't ready to let go of the connection, even though I was ready to let go of the connection.
When you said it a little bit ago, your identity, it becomes your identity. So when you get married at 19, 20, 21, 22, you haven't established your identity or feel firm in who you are. It's like when you leave a job, I know who I was when I started this job. And I know, like, when I'll take my laptop and I'll find another one because you know who you are as a successful person, as a business person. But when you enter a marriage, at least I did so young, I didn't know who I was or what I was. So when that dissolved, even though I was greatly relieved actually to not be married to him anymore, I didn't know what to fall back on. So you still rely on that connection maybe because that's become part of your identity.
Yeah. And that went on for far too long. I mean, I think that
How long did you do that for?
I think we were officially divorced by the time we ended up having a blow up. What ended up happening was, it was my birthday. Yeah. I think we were officially divorced maybe for like a week because it takes 90 days. And we were fast. Like we went to the divorce store, who is now closed. But that's where we went. I paid for it because it was my idea, but it was like $400. And we both went with, this is what she wants, this is what he wants. And, you know, away we go. So I think that we were officially divorced for about a month, if I remember right. And it was my birthday show. And my band was playing, and it was my actual birthday day. And he brought his girlfriend to my birthday show. And well, because there's some background. So his girlfriend was actually one of our good friends.
I was going to say, someone you knew or a friend of yours.
Yeah. Actually, her and her husband were great friends of ours. We used to go on vacation together. And unfortunately, her husband passed away from a heart attack.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he had heart failure. It was actually on the floor of our hotel room in one of our vacations in Vegas. My God. It was very, very highly traumatic. I'll tell that story some other time.
Wow.
But he was a great friend of mine. I was actually closer to her husband than her. But we would go together all the time. You know what I mean? So we were couple friends. I would say they were probably our best friends, to be honest. And once he passed away, I was so busy with work and everything that I was worried about her too. And I asked my ex to please take care of her and check in on her. And he sure did.
Do you think they're still together?
They are still together. I know they are. They have 2 children. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
They got married about 6 months or so, I think. I don't know. I heard it through, the grapevine, but I believe they got married about 6 months after we were officially divorced. She was already moved into my house and painting walls and everything. So I lost it, Miranda. Like
yeah.
any red-blooded human would do, I think. And I'm not proud of how I acted. It was honestly pretty abusive how I behaved. But I was hurt and I was angry, and it was like, really, my birthday? Like, really,
of all times, you know what you're doing here.
It's my birthday. You're like, come on.
And that was his way of letting, putting in a little dig and letting you know that he wasn't happy. Yeah.
So
honestly, I feel bad for women like that. I've always wondered, because my ex-husband, he had an affair, and then they got together, and they're still together. And even though I don't, as people, I don't understand them. They've done some very, very questionable things. They seem very well matched, I should say. And, I don't get it as a woman. I don't get it. I don't know. I know where it comes from psychologically. I know it's insecurity, and but I'll never understand, like she moved into my house too. And I never understood, there's no way. There's no part of me that's moving. No way.
Same. No way. We'll get a new house. Thanks.
Yeah. I don't want, going back to energy, I don't want any of this going into our relationship. But, then I got older and I realized that it was never, how they got together was shady. So it is what it is, but it's kind of funny that I think about that sometimes, and not more sympathetic. Like, oh, I don't love that for you, honey. Like, why? Yeah,
exactly.
Why would you do that? But,
no, I totally agree. Yeah. And like you said, honestly, I know them both very well. So, not so much.
Are you Facebook friends or
Oh God, no.
Okay.
The way that I treated her and him that day, they'll probably never speak to me again.
Oh, okay.
It was bad. And I'm here to admit it. Yeah. It was bad,
Yeah, well, they also had a hand in that. So there was some intentionality on their end as well.
Yeah. Talk about not reading the room, people.
Yeah.
So, but I see what you're saying. And I totally, if it were me, I would definitely not be moving into another woman's house. No way, Jose. We will get, I don't care. We'll get a 1-bedroom apartment until we can figure it out.
100%.
No. So I feel for her in that respect too. And I'm sure, because that was the house she would come over, because we would invite them over all the time. We had a pool. They didn't have a pool. So they would come over for, pool night and all that stuff. She had to have seen me in every single corner of that house. Most of the furniture was mine. So she did, how did you do that? I
can't believe we have that in common. That's so funny.
Yeah.
It's not funny, but it's, it's something I've thought about for years and never really talked to another person about who's gone through the same thing. But it always was kind of God, that's weird.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when they sold it, it wasn't with me, of course, because they'll never talk to me again. But when they sold it, I caught wind, because they actually sold it with a friend of mine. And so I'm looking at the pictures, and I'm looking at all the things that they did. And I had to put it down, because I was starting to spiral.
Separation. And that, going back to what we were talking about, separating yourself emotionally. What now? If you can have a conversation with your ex, do it.
Yeah.
Even my ex and I weren't in a great place, but there's been a couple times where I'm like, hey, you and I need to talk this out. Not about the kids, not about what are you still holding on to, or what are you still upset about? If you can have that conversation with them, have it and clear the air so that everything can be like a business transaction.
Yeah.
But if you can't, write a letter to them and send it to them energetically, burn it, whatever. But get your feelings out for them so that your feelings don't come out through the proceedings of the divorce.
Yeah.
I would suggest.
I totally agree with that, especially if there's children involved.
Yeah.
Like even more important, right?
Because how much did you go through, and you never had any business after that, but there's still, stuff that you felt.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And even now I get goosebumps just in the little portion of the story that I told you. I haven't really thought about it in a while. And it still brings me there. Like 13 years later, Miranda, it still brings me there just to even talk about it. I could still feel what it feels like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
have you experienced anything since then that's brought that same sort of feeling?
No, not like that.
Yeah.
Not like that. I learned a lot from that.
Yeah.
And I feel like I put myself in some better situations. I certainly learned to control myself a little bit better. And I was young, and I'm not like using that as an excuse by any means. I was 31. But maybe I was 32. I don't know. Something like that. But no, I haven't felt like that again. I certainly haven't been in that situation again. But that was so life-changing for me, in not just physically, but in a way of learning who I am, or recognizing who I don't want to be, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because I certainly don't want to be that person that reacted that night.
Where do you think, I know we don't have a ton of time to get into it, but what was the core, like, what do you think you really were feeling? Was it like shame? Was it embarrassment? Was it anger? Like, is there one thing that you think really?
I think I was pissed.
Anger.
I was pissed. Like, couldn't you have like chosen someone else? And it was funny because I remember one night we were having a little bit of an argument, and this man was very, very nice and very kind to me. So it was probably my fault we were having the argument. And I said something like, you should just marry Erica because, I said her name. Anyway, bleep. No one knows who he is. Well, some people do, but I said that to him. I'm like, because she's perfect for you. Fast forward, it was probably a year before we divorced.
You knew deep down. Do you want to know something funny? This woman was his kind of assistant at our family business. And so we would joke about it because she was like 10, 11 years older. So we kind of joke about like the old lady and whatever. And it was funny, and he would laugh. And then at some point he started laughing less and less. So when it happened, I was like, I knew. Deep down, I already knew. And it's funny that you feel like you created it, but really you just knew.
Yeah, I think I did. And I found out because one of our band members actually leaked it to me. Sorry, buddy. I know I promised I wouldn't say anything, but it's been long enough. It doesn't matter. I don't even think they're friends anymore. But he's like, you're not going to believe this. And I was like, what? He's with Erica? I knew he would be. And he was like, yeah, he is. So I think that was what it was.
Yeah.
I was pissed.
Secrecy. Yeah. And I don't think I've ever, until the last few years, allowed myself to be angry at either husband. I was emotional and I was hurt, but anger, I think I was trying to because they were both angry. So I think I was trying to tone it down and be a woman or whatever. But I think that I realized underneath a lot of my emotions was anger.
Yeah.
Unprocessed anger. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. We do need to wrap up this conversation, but I feel like I just pulled a few topics out of this talk that we definitely need to talk more about. Certainly the physical preparation. I love the mental preparation, emotional preparation first and foremost, because I think that's what's most important. Because again, you're not going to care what furniture you have in 20 years, but you're still going to carry this trauma. Look at me. I had it live on this video as you're watching us, like the trauma came up for me. Right. And I know it's because, and again, I'm, working on yourself is a work in progress. I do it every day. I'm doing my best to be a better person. But back then it certainly wasn't my focus, and I'm still feeling the pain from that.
Yeah. Well, we don't know. We don't know better, do better till we know better. But when you can get really serious, ladies, if you're going through this, get serious about what you want and what you want to get rid of. Like
who you want to
on
be.
Those two things. Yeah. Yeah. If you didn't have the weight of XYZ, how would you really want to feel? Who would you really want to be?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I love that. I hate to go, but we've got to go. We've got to
All right.
wrap this up, Miranda. We'll be back next month and we'll dive deeper into one of those topics. How's that sound?
Sounds good. See you guys later.
All right. If you guys want to check out any of our previous episodes, we have one. Hop on over to our YouTube channel. It's Mom Nation USA is the handle. Scroll down just a little ways. You will see us in blue. We are the playlist called Untying the Knot. If you prefer to listen podcast style on your favorite podcast platform, please do a quick search for Mom Nation Talk Radio. There you'll find us. Like, notify, download, ring the bell, all the things, and you will not miss an episode. We'll see you next month.
Bye.